Here for another live video. Today we're going to be talking about basically the Fed rates and how that actually turned out for a lot of these different pairs. We can see that in the market there was a lot of different spikes to the lows or the highs, and we're going to go over each segment on each one that is going over how it was affected and how every single one will turn out in the next couple of weeks. Because what you have to understand is that because there's a spike to a certain area doesn't mean that the market was going to trend in that area, especially if the US dollar was the most affected pair, as for the other currencies that were established and cross-paired to that. So we'll see a different structure compared to currencies that are, traded against the US dollar and obviously are buying other currencies as well as shorting the US dollar. So we're going to first talk about, we're going to go first down with the USD Japanese yen. As we can see, we talked about yesterday how they're taking liquidity and trapping it in one area, which was basically this spike to 112,600 area. And then we saw that the market had a huge spike down, which we just got in our position again for another low spike. Down to 1050. So we actually took this area. Reason why I took this area is because I saw it break previous price and then I saw it try to retest, and then knowing that it's going to not retest is going to obviously have to keep on going further down, and this is where the next level is going, right? So we had an entry for the USD JPY on one of our signals, and then obviously we took profit, and then now we're looking for the next level to get in for the next position, right? So we know that for sure the US dollar is definitely having a retracement at this time where the market isn't going to be able to recover off this market breakout, okay? And another thing that we can be able to justify or make this a more credible statement is that we can see that gold has a huge spike to the upside. We see that market price is actually moving higher and higher, and we saw it break out of this area, which is 112,500, right? And then we see it now retracing. So obviously it's in retracing session. This is the New York session, so we're not going to see a huge spike. Friday is going to be another big day, especially for people that are looking to make a lot of money before the end of the sessions for this week. So we're going to see probably a huge spike out and maybe even a higher trend to the upside. And we can see that the Euro USD is also looking for a nice bullish breakout as well before we do have price moving into another area of structure. So we're going to see that market price is going to go into a higher area where we can see that liquidity is trapping right here. And then that's why I said that it's going to take time. The reason why that like for the USD CAD we had a position that actually got stopped out because we had our stop loss at 250 is that it was just waiting for the nice reversal. So basically what we're looking for is that price came into this area and then now it's trying to induce those buyers long, right? And it's still rising price, right? We're still rising price and it's still gathering a lot of liquidity to the upside, probably to test previous highs right here where price had another structure here. And then once we see that confirmation, we will take that short entry and we will see price move, because price has to move liquidity somewhere. And this could be 2019, you guys. We could be a little early to the party, but at the same time, we're going to take this trade because we know that because there's a support right here, and because we know that the US dollar isn't going to be that sustainable over the next couple of months, or it's going to lose value, meaning that it's going to be propped up in 2019, obviously. When the investment bankers get back into the markets, they're going to prop up the dollar. They're going to try to make it sustainable as much as possible. But at the same time, they're going to have a downward correction. It's just how it works. The financial structure obviously has upsides and downsides, and we have to look for that downside as well. So we can see that USD Japanese yen as well is going to test lower levels. Obviously, we have our next position here for the correction. So we put our take profit right here at this previous breakout area, which is going to be a perfect area to have our stop loss. And then we should see a nice retracement back to this area. So yesterday, if you guys weren't here, we did have a structure on that level where we basically established that the market wasn't going to be able to sustain that trend to the upside after we saw this second leg formation. We saw this second leg formation right here, and we saw price coming up into this area testing lows, coming back up, testing lows once again, and then trying to again try to trap those buyers. And then once they had enough trap, then they obviously took them all out of the market, stopping all those traders from previous highs down to those lows. So like when we're looking for these reversals, because I like I told you guys, I'm a reversal trend trader and I'm a trend trader, right? So right now we looked for a reversal trend trade. We saw that spike to the high right here, and then we saw that trap. So that's basically like, if you guys want to look at these hands again, like they're basically market orders trying to trap these pending orders that are here for these buy areas. As you can see, that there's probably a cluster of buy areas right in this area before price decided to move lower. So they want to trap you into having this area look like it's going to buy, so they spike high. And even I got caught up. I'm like, okay, wait, never mind. It's gonna for sure go down. That's why for the market signals, I put market exit close, because I knew that the Fed rates are coming out. Because I was thinking of a midweek reversal, but I was like, no, wait, the Fed rates are coming out. It's definitely gonna break this area of support, which is going to be a huge area of this area now is going to be the last area before we're going to see lower levels. So that's why I got out and I put market exit. If you guys saw that on the signals, that I got out of this trade before it even took place, because I didn't want to lose money, and obviously if we went to that direction we would have lost. But then I made sure that I was giving you guys what I believe was the best thing in my opinion. So that was a big thing on why I believe the market price is going in a certain area. And another thing is that what I want to do and what make sure that we understand is that when price moves into a certain area and price goes into a breakout area such as this right here, this range, we want to see it how it formulates with here, right? So we see that this was a huge resistance area, right? We see that market price resists right here, and then it came up, and then obviously it trapped those sellers. This is just a trap, and then it goes higher, right? So now that we saw that, now we can look at price here, and it's like, okay, well, these are full candles now. So now we know that that trend is sustainable. So we have a sustainable reversal on price, and it's not actually going to go towards a retracement back to the upside, because now we know that there's momentum. And the reason why that we know that the momentum is starting to establish is because we saw all the highs of the previous market. We saw 1, 2, 3, and once we saw this third high, we know that market price isn't going to be able to retrace back to this new level. There's just too much impact, too much selling orders available right now for market price to be able to come back up and reverse. So that is what we're feeling like the US dollar to the Japanese yen is doing right now. So we can see that Bitcoin obviously is going up higher because, when there's one currency down, or when there's a rate or a very impactful rate, especially when it's a US dollar, that's the most power currency in the world. We're going to see people, go into other sources like Bitcoin, like gold, like silver, like other things that will offset their trades so they can be able to sustain their portfolio and not lose a lot of capital. So we saw that huge spike to the upside with Bitcoin, right? And we saw that huge area where the market actually decided to go even higher than previously that we thought was, and then it's going to test these levels, right? So we should see that the market is going to consolidate at this area after this big run. We shouldn't see the market, Bitcoin obviously go insanely higher out of this area. I wouldn't even expect it to go even higher than 4,200, just because this area is going to be a very impacting rate or impacting zone where market price is not going to be able to have a lot of pressure to break out of this area. So we're going to see price actually go into this area possibly, but we won't see it break out of this. We might see a reversal, we might see a head and shoulders, or we might see a false market bullish trap where basically it's going to look like this, where price will go into this area, and then it will consolidate price and then give like a decision that is a retracement, and then come back down into price, and then obviously counter with the trend. And we won't, because Bitcoin could possibly be, in a, like, this could essentially have been the whole market trap for the sellers. And then now that the dollar is going down, that now Bitcoin could possibly be going higher. So we could obviously see that happen too, but theoretically, the market pressure is just not essentially going to be valid yet, just for the price to be able to break these areas. First, we have to see it break 4,500 and then make that a support area before we see price actually going into a structure or a level where price will move higher, right? So hopefully that we will see price move into a certain or a higher level. But if we don't, then obviously we're going to look for a downwards correction still in Bitcoin, and that will be all right itself. So hopefully that answers some of you guys' questions. I'll obviously be answering your guys' questions. I'll have the chat right here. So if you guys have anything, please feel free to put in the chat as well. So that is what I believe that market price is going to be doing for Bitcoin as of now. And if we're going to be talking a little bit more, we have the Great Britain pound available too. We're in this position right now. We obviously have a buy position because we want to see a breakout to the upside. We see that liquidity is being built up right here, and we want to see that huge breakout to the upside. And obviously we want to see the first level be tested before we even go higher. And then obviously we're going to see a consolidation area before we get to higher levels. So that is what our prediction is for Great Britain pound. We obviously, this was just all propaganda where we talked about Brexit and how Brexit wasn't established, and how this is making the euro economy go insane, and everybody is basically gonna Great Britain pound is gonna go down, and no, it's not gonna have any further upside momentum. As you can see, that was all propaganda just to induce you into a selling FOMO and basically trying to trap you into believing that the market is going to have a more downwards momentum. And then what they did was that once they had, let me just erase this, you guys. Once they had enough sellers in the market, that's why they took so long for the sellers, right? They give you so long, right? They give you literally from around the 7th, right? And this is from a micro perspective, which is still a very long time. They're going to give you the 7th all the way till now, the 20th, to basically sell in the market. And then all this build-up pressure of sellers, they're going to take it back in literally a couple days. Maybe tomorrow. We're looking for the bullish breakout tomorrow, actually. So I'm going to obviously put this in the Discord. Right now, I haven't done it just because it is New York session. This is probably the range that we're going to see for this this session itself. We're going to see an upwards momentum in the real near future. So just like I said, Great Britain pound Brexit treaty obviously didn't go in force. They didn't want to sign the veto or whatever. Then obviously price was consolidating, and then now it's going to keep on consolidating, and price is going to break out to the upside, stopping out all those selling orders that were from here in this area, and take it back and bring it back to this area. So we've seen this a lot, you guys. We've seen this in a lot of prices, especially with something that looks like this. I mean, we can look it up probably right now and find an easy suggestion, kind of similar, not really, but very, very like same structure. Price consolidates, and then obviously you have that peak formation, traps those sellers, and then obviously takes back those sellers once again. So this is more of a bigger structure because there's way more impact, way more consolidation. So we know that there's going to be a lot more pressure being built here into the downside. So the market pressure is down here. We can see that market pressure is finally showing an upside momentum, and then we should see a breakout to the upside. So that's what we see for Great Britain pound, and that's what we just see anything really cross pair with dollar right now, just because the dollar, the Fed rate wasn't going to be, it's not that impactful, but it's enough to get those the traders that obviously were going crazy out of thinking that this was a very impactful event, and they're going to obviously stop you out. So going back to Australian dollar on price and what we believe price is going to be doing with the Australian dollar is that the price with Australian dollar is that we can see that price will now have an area where it's going to have a trap area right here, right? So the reason why that we see that it's going to be a trap area is because it's different from what we see as a downtrend, okay? So that's why I say it's a market trap. Whoops, let me just erase this stuff, you guys. Give me 1 second. move this. Hope everybody's having a great Thursday as well. We had a lot of cool things happen over the last night, and you know, throughout this next couple of days, I know Christmas is coming up, so a lot of people are not really focusing on the markets. A lot of people are focusing on, you know, their families and stuff like that. I as well be focusing on that, you know, in the next couple of days as well. But until then, you know, want to make sure I give you guys the best knowledge possible before we have these new breakouts and stuff like that. Before we do, you know, get back to, you know, family life. So what we see here is huge. So this is basically showing me that market's saying, okay, Brent, and that's, if you guys didn't know, that's my name, Brenton. So I can see that price is actually in this area. It's consolidating, right? But this is giving me confirmation. This area right here makes me show that this is a peak formation, because I had two areas where market broke out of, straight out of that price. So this area I'm showing as my bottom, right? So I'm just going to put B for bottom, just so I don't have to, right? So I'm going to put this area right here. This is my bottom. So now I'm going to have an area where I can considerably focus on price not breaking this area, okay? So now that price isn't breaking this area, and I know that price is now established into a peak formation low, because we saw that previous structure price of the Aussie dollar was considerably in a downtrend, which means that it was making lower lows and lower highs, which, if you guys don't know what a lower low and a lower high is basically when the market goes down, it's making a lower low, and when the market goes up and makes a correction, it's a lower high, okay? And the opposite of this is obviously a higher low and a higher high, but we'll go over that in another section. So you can see that prices make a lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, right? Lower low, lower high, and then so forth, right? So lower low, lower high, and then makes a lower low, and then it makes a higher low, right? Because it breaks this previous lower low, right? So price broke out of this down trend. So now that this downtrend has been done, is finished, because this price broke out of it, what they're going to do now is trap sellers to believe price is going to still go down. So what they do is that they'll trap the sellers into thinking price is going to continue in the same direction by working off this bottom, right? So once that bottom has been formulated, they'll use news events. This is how they do it, you guys. This is how they will induce you into having areas of price being formulated. They'll use news events, previous structure. They'll use hard stops, and then they'll use stop hunts. Okay? These are literally the four areas of how price will be manipulated, and then after they use this area, they will then reverse price. So I'll go over these, you guys, and show you exactly what I mean. So news events, obviously, we had the Fed rates, right? We had this month was the Fed rates. So we're going to put that into here. So we had Fed rate from 2.25% to, 2.25 to 2.50, right? That was exactly what happened, right? So we had, that was our established event for this downward spike, right? So then we had previous structure. So then we see previous structure. We saw that previous structure was on a downtrend, right? So price was in a downwards trend, AUD, right? AUD was in a downtrend. So, well, I obviously spelled downtrend wrong, so forget it. So we split downtrend here, right? So downtrend was in this area, right? So now that we have that downtrend, broke this level, right? Stop making lower lows and lower highs, right? We talked about that. So I'll put that here. broke down trend, lower low, lower high, stopped, right? So we had this happen where price now, this downtrend was not compatible anymore because it broke this current level from this lower low to the lower high, and then now this is obsolete because this area was the last lower low, right? And then now the lower high, or excuse me, the higher low, whoops, I'm confusing myself now. I was right the first time. This lower high has now been formulated, right? So that's how we know that price is now not in a downwards trend anymore. So as we know from the way that we strategize our formulations, which we want to go towards where the banks are going, where the banks are going to push market price, we can see that the Fed rate was coming out. So the Fed rate was going to be a smoke and mirrors or an illusion for retail traders, right? They're going to use this as this sell order, this sell position, this long range as an area to induce you for a sell trap, okay? So the sell trap is going to make sure that they can consolidate price. And how long do sell traps usually happen? From 10 to 16 hours, okay? So this is why price hasn't really broken out of this area. And it can be a little higher depending on what price range and what market you're in, right? So hours of consolidation could be 10 to 16 hours of consolidation, okay? It can be high, it can be higher, it can be, and I'll show you what I mean by that, okay? So we're gonna break it down so you guys understand exactly what sections are. And I'm gonna get back to the questions in a second, you guys. I know I haven't looked at them. I promise you I will get back to you guys in 1 second to answer questions that you have. And yes, I do analyze crypto, Aisha. I'm going to go over that, but I do focus mostly on the US dollar. I focus on the Great Britain pound and Forex, but I do go over crypto as well. And I will show you how this is going to work on crypto, because a lot of the structures that I teach you guys are actually universal structures where each one of these price range of each one of these formulations I'm going to show you will be very, very compatible to your Forex strategies as well. So, so hours of consolidation is 10 to 16 hours for market trap, right? So now we have understanding of price. Keeps on doing that. Sorry, guys. Keeps on doing that. So here we have this available market trap, right? So market's consolidating, and as you can see that this is a little longer. It's going to be, and when I talk about market trap, it's just right here, not right here is more of the market trap area where price made this right here. So now we have this, right? You have 4, 8, now we have the 16 hours. Perfect, okay? So then obviously we're going to look at price a little different. Like I said, you guys, usually between 10 to 16 hours, sometimes a little longer, okay? So right here we can see that price is showing a little longer than it usually does. So this sell trap, right, is going to be formulated where price is being induced, pressured to the downside, but not going to break this low. Not going to break this previous structure low. So now we know that previous structure is not going to be broken because this is considered a peak formation, you guys, which we like to call the area of support or the end of a trend. Right? Peak formation, end of a trend, going into another area. And we'll look at price right now just so you guys understand what I mean by that, okay? So what I mean by peak formations is that when the market essentially is making like a V shape, you guys can call it a V or a peak, the end of a trend is established where there's upside momentum, a peak formation was confirmed, and then it goes the opposite direction. Same thing right here. Peak formation was established, market price is induced, and then market price drops down. Okay, so we can see that this was a huge compatible formation on all universal levels, right? So Maisha, to answer your question, this does happen as well. Please review XBT USD now, and I'll go to sleep. XBT. So I do follow XBT. Is that what you're asking for? So the price. Let me just make sure you're asking for that. Okay, for sure. I'll let me just get that done real fast for you, and then I'll be able to go forward. So that is cryptos. Let me just show you right now. So you guys are talking about, you want to look for what BTC is going to do to the US dollar. So what we're seeing right now is considerably a market high right here. Okay, so a market high is going into a certain area. We're seeing that price structure is formulated, and we see that that low has been confirmed, which we see as considerably, like we talked about earlier, a peak formation. But this is where we could see something different, because price for Bitcoin could possibly be going to higher highs now, right? It could be making lower. It just made this formation right here where structure was being built. So what we want to see now, this is probably the only thing I can actually give you guys right now that to stay in integrity with my word, is that I believe price will go into a certain area, and then I want to see a retest. If I see that retest of previous structure lows, then I want to see price move higher. Okay, so I want to see a break and retest at this area for price to now move higher. Okay, so that's what I want to show you guys. And I'm going to find what areas that is possible for that foundation now. So what I want to see is foundation. Eye twitching a little bit. Sorry if you guys see my eye twitch. Let's see. Let's look for the foundation. So we want to see a break and retest. That's what we want to look for. So let's find the foundation first, and then let's look for that break and retest. So we'll draw out the line. So we see that price was consolidating in this area. So this is a form of structure, right? And now price is moving into that same area. We see that this was our consolidation area from the 7th through the 17th. So a 10-day consolidation, right? So this was 10 days. So now we see price move into previous area of structure. So now we want to look for an area where price will either consolidate, make a confirmation that there's going to be structure, and if we do see that, if price does break this area, we don't want to see it past 3,500, right? If price doesn't pass 3,500 or 3,700, then we want to see a continue of an uptrend, kind of like a cup and handle. You guys heard about the cup and handle formation, right? Where price comes in, makes that handle, and then goes up higher. We've heard about that formation all the time. Well, considerably, these cup and handle formation, price will go into a certain direction, a certain area, before we see, or it will reverse, and we'll see a retest before we'll see a breakout. So if we do see that cup and handle right here, then we'll see price move higher. Then that will give us credibility. So I hope that answers your question about your guys' question when it comes to crypto. Where is crypto going to be moving? We obviously are seeing price, like I said, we're looking for a foundation, and we're looking for a break and retest. That is what we're looking for when it comes to crypto in general, and we're looking for the market. So going back into market structure and seeing where price is going to be going, we already went over the US dollar, Japanese yen. We obviously talked about where price is going to go for Great Britain pound, US dollar. So now let's talk about gold. Okay, you guys. So gold is obviously the crosspair or the polarity aspect of the dollar, right? Everything was essentially priced on gold, priced on the dollar, and then how we sustained the dollar's levels, right, in the 1970s before Nixon took off the gold standard, was the available circumstantial evidence that this is what makes the US dollar valid, right? So gold is the opposite factor of how the US dollar is. Whoops, sorry about that. I guess there's a little spike. So anyway, so now we can see that price is going upwards for the US dollar. We can see that now that is showing a sustainable market highs for where price was now going lower, right? So what we wanted to see, this will give us a lot of huge understanding of why price is so valid in the US dollar. So we can see that price in 2012, if you guys didn't know, was when the US economy did $1 trillion deficit, meaning that the Central Reserve, the Federal Reserve, made a deficit and they stimulated the economy after the 2007 subprime loan crash. They basically wanted to stimulate the economy, so they put $1 trillion into the market to stimulate the economy, right? So this is when the market for the US dollar went high, went super high, right? So we'll go back to 2012 and I'll show you what I mean. So 2012 was right here, okay? So this was 2012. So this is where price moved to higher levels, right? This is where that stimulation was at. Now we can see that price, right, is now showing the exact opposite for gold, right? Gold is showing that when price moved to those levels, it went down. It went down, you guys. So this is what I mean by how you can look at the gold to formulate your strategy on where price will be able to move and where price is so valid and it can be able to be as another indicator, right? Another confirmation for your strategy. So the amazing thing is that now that we have that reassurance, we can go back to where we're at as a price right now, and we can see now that that market made a peak formation low, right? Peak formation high, market goes down. Peak formation low, market goes up. So now we have that formulation that price is now going towards the upside. It broke this previous level. So when we look at the US dollar, we see that price is now considerably showing it's going to go to the downside. And you see how it's exactly in the same synchronicity as gold right now, the USD JPY. You can look at the synchronicity. You see that huge wick spike? Let's go to gold. Same thing, huge wick spike, same level, same range, and everything. So when we see price, like in Friday, tomorrow, we're gonna see another breakout. We'll see price fill in this area. First, they're going to trap them, right? They're not going to move price lower because price has already been broken out of that area. Now it's building up pressure. We're gonna see price move into higher direction, and once we see that higher direction confirmed, we're going to see again price will go lower for the US dollar Japanese yen. So this is where we understand and going to be able to make a profound market strategy that can be able to implement into our focus structures and how price can now move into a new higher perspective. Okay, guys? So that being said, we can now use these indications of how the polarity aspect is of market structures and formulations. We can use indicators as well. So we'll type in, I use the 200 EMA, right? So I use 200 EMA and I'm using also the 50 EMA. So I use two indicators. That's basically all I use. I mostly focus on these two EMAs because they've been the most, they've been the best for me. Honestly, they've been the best for me. And you guys see this now? You guys see how this is a perfect example. You guys see how price is literally having the 200 moving average exactly where confirmation is, where we're talking about. And look, and I bet you anything it's the same thing for the gold. Exactly. You see how price is now scooping up. So this is how we know that price is now going to highs. You see how price is showing retest, but then now it shows confirmation to an upside momentum. That's what we're going to see, and now we see that price is moving higher. So there's no reason for price to now go lower because these moving averages, which was resistance, right? Because we usually use these areas as resistance, now is becoming support. So now this is a support area, so now we know that the gold is going higher, right? So now that gold's going higher, we can see that price is going to do the same thing. We're going to see the US dollar Now we see that resistance at that 50 moving averages, that, remember the support area we talked about, you guys, right here? This was a support, this is a support. Now look at it. Now it's a resistance. Now it's going to be a resistance to the downside. So this is huge. You know, this is really good information for you guys to be able to now use this as a strategy for you to make your trades for the downside. So we're going to look at the Australian dollar and see exactly what we're seeing now. You see what I'm talking about, where the reason why this is a false breakout? You see where the 200 moving averages is, you guys? You see how price is hovering right near that area, where that area where the breakout is? It's because price is going to now scoop up, and the moving averages are going to follow with it, right? Making that a support level to go higher, because this is all this area is a confirmation to trap sellers. And then the moving averages are just going to be confirmation. All indicators are just confirmation into your strategy. So we can see the EMA, once again, we'll see the EMA. We see price going into price actually moving higher. So then we can use this as a confirmation that price will move higher as we grow stronger with the US dollar, right? So it's not all going to happen at once. Not everything happens at once, right? A foundation isn't built overnight. It takes time. It takes momentum. Just like anything in this world, you need momentum. And then after momentum has been stabilized, then that's when you'll see a very big upside. So momentum always is followed by a breakout, right? So that's what I talk about with you guys. Consolidation is always filled out by a breakout, because all consolidation is considered momentum. So it's the snowball effect. You need the snow to start to, right, gain momentum. And then once the snowball is now fulfilled, right, it can considerably have a huge impact, and it keeps on growing and growing and growing over time. And that's the same thing with the market. It literally will consolidate price for a certain amount of time, gain momentum, and then break out, and then now it's going to have more time and then break into a certain area. So that's what literally every market goes over into. Every market really goes into that same situation. So when we're looking at price, we want to look for that same area, that same momentum, right, being built up. And generally, this whole area is building momentum to break out, right, to the upside. So if we look at the euro dollar, it's way more self-explanatory. Look at all that built up momentum, right? All this is billions of dollars being trapped right in this area, looking for a way out, looking for the next direction. Because like I said, consolidation is always filled out with a breakout. And then obviously right here, this is the similar area that we'll talk about in future price structures. So this is literally, you know, the best time in the markets, you guys. Like, if we can get behind this, and if we take everything that, you know, your past failures or your past success and everything, if we take all of that out of your paradigm and you just come freely and, you know, just let this soak in, you know, I'm telling you guys, 2019 could be the biggest year for you financially in the trading world. You know, if you want to become a professional trader, if you want to become, you know, a full-time trader, this could be your breakout year, right? So, you know, every day you can make a new world for you considerably. You just have to let go of whatever is stopping you, right? The old paradigm, the old beliefs. So what we're trying to do is just literally soak up all this information that price is giving us. Now we can make formulations, we can make strategies. So a lot of you guys trade Great Britain pound, Japanese yen. So this is a perfect structure, again, where price is going to be going in the near direction, okay? So you can see that price for the Great Britain pound, Japanese yen has made this lower low, and then has made this lower low right here, and price made this M formation where price came into peak high, right? Trapped again price once more time, and then drop price down, right? So then now, what do we want to see? Well, let's look at previous structure, because previous structure leaves clues. Will price move back into this direction where price is now where previous structure was at 2016, right, to 2007 to November 2016, will it come back and move into this direction to fulfill confirmation, or will price reverse and move higher? But let's see where the momentum is. Momentum is showing me that price is going to go downwards. Look at all these lower lows. Price didn't break out of this lower low. It's still in a downwards angular trend. So would price break down into this area? Possibly. We could possibly see that price will break out of this structure support, right, and break down into a new level, right? The path of least resistance, you guys. So if we see that available structure, then we want to see Great Britain pound to US dollar obviously go higher. We want to see price move higher, right? Not because the same thing is available, because it's a different pair, you guys. It's not going to always do the same thing. It could be having a lot of polarity for a certain amount of time, but it's not always going to have that same structure formation, because the US dollar is different than the Great Britain pound, and the Great Britain pound is different from the Japanese yen. So they will do a lot of, relatively, they'll do a lot of different, the same structures, right? We can see that price did the same thing here, and then we can see the Great Britain pound do the same thing, where price literally did the same thing almost, but that doesn't mean that it will always considerably be doing the same thing. So we can take this into consideration, that price will obviously come down and it might break lower. That's obviously an understanding. We can possibly see that. That's why we're only doing this from a micro perspective. We're not looking for a home run. We're not trying to make this a huge swing trade when obviously we haven't confirmed where price is going to go yet, right? Because this is still, all these things are high probabilities, you guys. The market can do anything it wants to do, right? All we're trying to do as speculation investors is find high probability setups and try to define price from previous market structures or previous market areas of psychology, right? So what we're trying to do is just find small little gains, right, in the interim. And then after we found those momentums, now we can look for broadened perspectives. So right now we can see price, if it does break this area, right, it could possibly do two things. Price can either come into this area, make that W formation, come higher, right, where price will now move to the high round, or it will go lower. Price will come back down, and then it will trap and go lower, okay? So there's two areas where price is looking to go for the Great Britain pound in general, right? So so I hope that you guys understood a couple of things that we went over today in price action on where market price is going to be going. I hope that it answers some of the questions when it comes to market structures, the polarity of the markets, how a lot of these market areas have another structure behind it that is definitely the same or different in some type of way. I hope that I was able to answer some of your guys' questions on how, where price is possibly going to be going due to the Fed rates, due to having this, and why these Fed rates were established. Why did these Fed rates come into consideration? Not the monetary structure wise. Obviously, we know why we have Fed rates, right? It's to basically structure our economy, right? To make sure that we're not have overinflation, because we manage a lot of deficit. We manage a lot of debt, especially in the U.S. economy. So that's not the reason. And I want to talk to you guys about fundamentals as well now. So what happens with the U.S. is that once the U.S. makes a interest spike or a interest decision, we're the lead standard. So meaning that most other currencies or countries in the world will now make another readjustment of their monetary rates as well, right? So the central banks in the world are basically all private institutions, private entities that basically fund their government, so their citizens and their companies can obviously stay stable, right? There's only about 2 countries in the world now that don't have central banks, meaning that there's only 2 countries in the world. Before 2007, there was around 14. Now going in 2019, there's about 2, right? And one's North Korea, right? The other one was Cuba, but now Cuba has established a central bank, right? So what I want to talk about is that central banks are basically market manipulators, where they are the controllers of the whole monetary policy for whatever district, right? We could say these are the creators of each district, right? We have a district, which is the U.S. economy. That's a district. We have, the European district. These are different districts. They own most of the world's economy, right? So what they do is that they will talk to each other, right? They call them I'm blanking on the word right now. I can't believe I'm forgetting this right now. I just studied this like 2 seconds ago. I'll get back to you guys on that. They're basically what I want to talk to you about. They're powerhouse. There's 8 powerhouses in the world, meaning there's 8 like full banks and institutions, people that run the world that now control. So they'll have conversations with each other. They'll go to meetings and then they'll let people know when they're going to do the rate spikes, when they're going to drop price, because each one of these central banks have what they have is central exchange. They have a reserve. That's why it's called a reserve bank. They have reserves in that bank. So what they do is that they will make a spike into a certain area. They'll take money, right? They call them sovereign welfares. They will take money from that reserve and they'll regulate price, right? So they'll regulate price, where price will now be regulated and be changed in a high dramatic way. So this could be with any currency, right? Any currency can go through this. So I'm going to give you guys more firm understanding with that. I do have a full section, a full segment on that. Obviously, I've been focused more so on the pairs itself, but we'll go over how all the central reserves and central banks work and how they do basically control the world economy and how that they do like market manipulation on price to define where price will be going next. So that will be our next segment in the market and what's going to go on. So if you guys want to know more about that later on, please let me know and I'll for sure tell you guys about that. So and I hope I answered you guys' questions. I do have the chat open right here, so hopefully that everything's working. I had to fix it yesterday where I wasn't able to view your chats, but now I am here. So hopefully that answered you guys' questions where price is going and what price is doing, where federal rates are going to be and what federal rates are doing to us right now. And I hope you guys understood how market plays out, how market structure works, how the market manipulates price, how market tries to define price. And not just that, but how each one of these areas can considerably be a backbone for another reverse or another structure. Okay, so hopefully this helps you guys out. I hope that you guys can take this information, obviously use it to your betterment. But I'm going to leave you guys with one more thing, and that's just have fun with this. Have fun with trading. Don't make this a very stressful thing. Have fun with what you do. Because it's a fun thing. It's a fun thing to do. So hopefully you guys are all making profit and you guys are all doing well. I'm going to be obviously in the Discord after this, doing my trades and also answering any questions if you guys have any questions there. Because I hopefully have all the questions I answered here. I do have it available, so hopefully I answered all your questions here. So yeah, I hope you guys have a great Thursday. Tomorrow we should see a nice breakout to a certain direction for some of these pairs, especially the pairs that have been trapped, and now that the market price might be moving into a different direction. So hope you guys stay tuned for tomorrow's video, and I'll see you then. All right, bye guys. Have a good one.